First up tonight, eliminating the Education Department. President Trump signs an executive order the White House says is aimed at dismantling that federal agency. The move, the White House says, will send power back to the states, but most educators know that's where it resides anyway. What responsibilities will remain at the federal level? That remains open to inspection. Another topic tonight, woefully insufficient. That's a quote, and it's what a federal judge said this afternoon after the Department of Justice missed a filing deadline set by the judge who wanted details about the deportation flights of Venezuelan immigrants to El Salvador over the weekend. We're tracking what comes next in that legal clash. And to do that, we start tonight with Scott MacFarlane, who joins me here at the desk. Catch our audience up, Scott, on what happened today.
We have this epic, if not historic, legal standoff, and it's not cooling off. It's escalating as each day goes by this week, Major. It escalated again today. The judge, for a second time here in Washington, asked the Department of Justice to explain when those planes took off last Saturday, when they cleared U.S. airspace, when they landed, why his order to turn the plane around wasn't followed. And again today, the Department of Justice did not provide the answers to those questions. Not only did they fail to provide the answers, they missed the deadline and came in late with the assignment from the teacher. And what's more, they sent a lower-level Department of Justice official, perhaps too low, to say they may invoke a state secret defense to avoid answering those questions. And the judge's response was, that's all woefully insufficient.
What are the implications of this state secret line of defense should it be asserted by the administration?
Going to have to make their case as to why it should be asserted. The judge is making clear unequivocally they haven't made that case. He's going to order.
And if they did make that case, that would mean no judge can touch the underlying evidence.
It also sets quite a precedent for what seem to be imminent future deportations. The judge is going to have a hearing on this state secret argument. That's likely to come in the coming days. There'll be a hearing tomorrow also to go through some matters. The judge wants to hear from somebody affiliated with the cabinet as to why this state secret thing is relevant in this case. These are pretty point-blank questions, some of which may be available immediately to the Department of Justice. They need no review to find this information, but that's, to a degree, adjacent to the big issue, not the big issue. There are judges' orders not being followed. There are judges' orders that are being disregarded or disobeyed, and that is a fundamentally pernicious, if not radioactive, problem.
The underlying issue in terms of immigration is Tren de Aragua, this Venezuelan prison gang started about 10 years ago. They're human traffickers. They deal in drugs. They're extremely violent. Those who are in the gang in the United States clearly would qualify for deportation. Nobody disputes that. That's not what this is about. It's about the methods by which that's carried out, and if all of these Venezuelans rounded up and sent to El Salvador are actually members of the gang.
It's another important development today in court. There have been a series of sworn statements submitted under the pain of perjury by immigration attorneys arguing that at least some of these cases, and at least some, these are not gang members, that they're being misconstrued or misassociated with gangs, and that, therefore, they shouldn't have been deported without going through a legal process, that they shouldn't have been disappeared to a prison outside the United States. These statements are making an argument that our CBS News reporting has uncovered over the past 48 hours. First of all, CBS News has obtained the full list of the 230 plus.
Camila Montoya Galvez and others.
He has the alphabetized list of the 230 plus people
Meaning
deported.
we found out things that the administration won't even disclose to court.
And the argument's being made by some surrogates of the people on that list that they are not gang members and that they have no criminal backgrounds, which again underscores the argument the plaintiffs are making here is you have to go through the process if you want to deport someone. You can't just do it under the 1798 law.
And there's this question of processing and deporting them to El Salvador, to a very tough prison in which gang violence and other things is somewhat common.
Now you hit the political issue here. There are other filings made in court today in which the plaintiffs, the advocates for those deported, say this is some very terrible conditions, and there were terrible conditions during the deportation, crying on the plane, chaos. Not sure the Trump administration is displeased with that characterization. They'd like to amplify that people who are deemed to be violent gang members deserve some pretty rough or at least sturdy treatment by the court system or by the deportation process. That Department of Justice argument may come up during the hearings that are in the days ahead.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you so very, very much. I want to bring in Jennifer Jacobs, who joins us from the White House. Our top story tonight was about the Education Department, the fate thereof, an executive order. Jennifer, catch us up.
Well, the executive order is signed now, Major, but we still don't have a copy of it. So all we can go on at this point is the rhetoric of the president, and he told us that the EO will take all lawful steps to begin the process of shutting down the Education Department. He said he wanted to go away once and for all. But White House officials have told us today that the EO does not completely shut down the Education Department. That requires a congressional approval. And the president did make a nod to the fact that he knows that. He said, I hope people will vote for this. He seemed to say, Democrats, this might be coming before you. I hope you all vote for it because it'll make our education system better. But he did say what officials had told us earlier, which is this EO does preserve some of the essential functions of the department, and that is education funding for low-income schools, the Pell Grants and student loans, as well as funding for students with disabilities. So the president confirmed that that is all still in there. All this EO does, as far as we know, since we haven't read it yet, is it starts beginning the process of unwinding the department.
Maybe unwinding the bureaucracy, but Jennifer, to the point you just made, the four things you mentioned, student loans, Pell Grants, school districts that are underfunded and are funded through the Education Department under Title I, and special education funding, that comprises, as I understand it, most of the Federal Department of Education's budget.
Exactly. So the bottom line here is we have fewer civil servants, fewer bureaucrats, as the president put it, working in the Education Department. The president did say that some of those functions will eventually be farmed out to other agencies. And officials told me today that could include the Treasury Department, say, for the student loans, or Health and Human Services, or the Department of Justice. So the fact is the department will be reduced for now, but not shuttered completely. The president pointed out that half of the staff have been either let go or they've taken those buyouts, that fork in the road buyouts. So we have a smaller agency doing some of the same functions for now.
Jennifer Jacobs at the White House, thank you so very much.